Well, I'm Mike Phelps, and I was one of the 3 founding partners of IROC, the International Race Champions. John Hill, young, very talented young man and very bright, came to me through our neighbor and said he wanted to be in the racing business. And we sat down and we had a long conversation, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, he needs to get some track time. And he agreed to get track time. And lo and behold, I happen to have a car sitting in one of my garages. We worked out a time and a place, and John went down to Nashville track, and he had some really good people, Willie Allen and company, War Shocks Racing.
I'm Willie Allen, owner of War Shocks. We also have War Racing Development. We do a lot of racing here in the Southeast and do some stuff on the West Coast. I know John's a racer. He really enjoys racing and loves racing and super driven. When he came in, I could definitely tell he had a spark that I noticed in John that was really cool. So he approached me about the idea of running an IROC car at Nashville in a test, us helping him set it up and going to the track and doing some driver coaching.
My name is Tony Famosa. I am the promoter of the Fairgrounds Speedways here in Nashville. I've been the promoter here since 2010. John did a test session for a very well-known gentleman that kind of helped invent the IROC series for NASCAR. Now the NASCAR type cars, which the car John was driving, was an old IROC car, which is a heavy car, nowhere near built to be a competitive car here at the Fairgrounds Speedways. No comparisons in what we run here.
Hey, I'm Keith Beans of War Racing Development. I'm Willie Allen's crew chief. I build cars from the ground up, and recently got a chance to go to the racetrack with John, and he ran an IROC car.
The car originally, when the series was canceled in December of '07, all the cars were set up to go back to Daytona Beach in February of '08. And so this car, as it was sitting, was literally set up for a 2.5-mile high banked oval. And the setup, the gearing, and the brakes.
As a setup guy, definitely we did not have the proper setup on the IROC car. There was no way to get it. It's a Daytona, Talladega, big track super speedway car, and to attempt to take that to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, a 5/8 mile high bank track, was definitely an obstacle from the setup shop to John driving. So we had to make some adjustments to kind of fit the needs there. But we still couldn't make the car as good as it needed to be, but we had to leave the rest of it to John, and man, John did a good job adapting to a car that was way overweight and way under braking power for the track. Something that don't normally run there. He right off the bat made good adjustments. It's backing his corners up to make it work.
For John to get in that car that weighed 4,000 pounds and with the wrong tires on it with no brakes, to go as fast as he did was pretty incredible. He did a really good job. No problems, no issues. The car never got out from under him.
And John and I had an agreement. The agreement was that John could use the car, then no charge, have a good time. And I asked him to bring it back in one piece. And he did. Not a scratch on it.
So the day of the test, when John made his first couple laps, I was definitely impressed. It was like, wow, he fired it off in there. That's one thing I feel like you can't teach if a driver's not aggressive and charges the turns. It's hard to ever get them to step it up, and I definitely think from the start that John fired it off in there, and from his first run, when he came in, he listened to what adjustments we told him he needed to do as far as his racing line, which he didn't need much.
So as a spotter, I look for a driver that can find the line and get in it. Now, I don't expect him to find it necessarily on his own all the time. Sometimes they need assistance on a track they've never seen before. John did a really good job of getting in the line and staying there, and for a lot of drivers, that's hard to do.
And I got to say, I can't tell you in words how impressed I was with John's performance.
The one thing that never crossed my mind, because in all honesty, I had never been to a short track, of that short a track, that I got to see what braking is all about going into, in particular at Nashville Speedway, going into turns 1 and 3. And he goes, Mike, Mike.
Hey, get Mike.
I come over and he says, do you have a problem with these brakes? I go, oh, the brakes. The brakes are for Daytona. And at Daytona, you don't use the brakes unless you've got a major incident happening in front of you. And even then it's, why bother?
Worked out really well for me because I like working with a driver that can kind of tell me what the car is doing. He did a really good job, gave us really good feedback. He knows what the car feels like. And as a spotter, I really use that information to help John get around the track and help him get in his line.
John did a good job giving us feedback, noticing that the brakes were going down each run. John noticing the brakes and the bolt hitting the tire definitely saved the car, I feel like. And definitely wouldn't want to hurt the 2007 IROC car that Jeff Gordon drove. Man, that car is one freaking cool car. He made some corrections and went back out for the second and third run and just kept gaining on it. Definitely a successful first couple laps and throughout the whole test day.
He'd go out, he'd run 10, 15 laps, pound it, just pound it, doing a great job. His line was perfect. You could just follow him around the track, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. His braking was great, and the brakes would finally start to give way. Now, I say all that because for a young man who's driving a car, I think he probably hit 122 on that short track, certainly going into 3 and probably 1. For him to be able to do that, knowing that his brakes are going to go out at some point, takes huge cojones. Also, great confidence in himself, and he showed it. He did a great job. And I sat there, and the more he drove, the more comfortable I got.
And I'd say that John's run here a few months ago was very impressive, not only to me, but to a lot of people, to former champions that witnessed his trial run in an old IROC car. I'd love to see what John could do in a 2,700-pound car with a set of stickers on it with a fresh motor. I think that he probably would be a threat.
And we're all watching John, and John's out there, wow, just perfectly. And his lap times were consistent. The numbers I'm sure y'all have, most impressive. And I can only tell you, one, as a driver, he did a great job. I mean, seriously. He's, must be a photographic memory in both muscle and brain, because once he learned the line, he drove that line and he improved his time, literally up until maybe the last 20 laps, and it was just steady, hard charging, well driven. Willie Allen, all the guys were impressed. The other drivers couldn't believe that he'd never been in a race car.
I think John did a really good job driving the car to be the first time he'd ever been around the track and the first time ever in the car that heavy. I think he did an exceptional job.
I'm kind of anxious to see what the future holds for John.
I think John has a tremendous future. I want to see him get into truck racing in NASCAR. I think he would do extremely well in NASCAR. Certainly the demographics that he could appeal to and reach to, not only young people, but African American. The guy can speak like nobody's business. He can handle himself cold in an interview. Most impressive. If I were, an agent or someone that was managing a race car driver, I'd say he has all the tools. He's bright, he's good looking, handles himself well with people, he's real. From a personal standpoint, I would recommend him to any sponsor and or to NASCAR or any racing team. The young man is a true find, and I had fun being a small part of it.